Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Jobadiah, otherwise known as Roman's Revenge. Today I'm talking about a 9th Age battle report from the Abrasus League. I faced off against Subspace, and he was playing the new Dread Elf book. So, let's take a look at what happened. I'm playing Empire of Sonstal. This is my list. I'm not going to talk about it. You can look through it, leave any comments if you want. This is Subspace's list. Now, Dread Elves, if you're not aware, they just were redone. Their book is still beta. They're continuing to make changes to it because this is the first iteration of it. So I can't remember all the little things about them. Go check out their book on the Ninth Age forums if you want to. Some of the big rules that I was a little hesitant um, in and was part of the reason why I played the way I did is that they now have Dread Elves have this rule. Not all their units, but a lot of their units have this rule. I think it's called Academy Trained or something, where they have +1 to wound in the first round of combat. Most of the time in Ninth Age, you really only need one good round of combat. And with Dread Elves having +1 to wound in the first round, that's most of the time all that they need. So I was reluctant because even though his guys are Strength 3, well, the Legionnaires are Strength 3, the Temple Militants have these Blades of Darak, and the thing is with the Blades of Darak, they have +1 attack, and then they get +1 strength in the first. No, they have +1 to wound in the first round of combat. Anyone with Blades of Darak has +1 strength and AP for each augment spell that's cast on them. So things can get kind of ridiculous real fast if you start casting. You don't even need that many. Even just one really dials them up. You put 2 or 3 spells on them, and they're just kind of ridiculous. So there you have it. Um, Anything else to mention? Not really. Black cloaks are kind of ridiculous. They have like triple shots within like 8 inches or 12 inches, and they're poisoned. So they're also pretty nasty. And Crucible of Slaughter reduces units in base contact. I think it's base contact. Their resilience by 1. So I also, I didn't want to fight against any block that had the Crucible of Slaughter, the Divine Altar, because that makes my Flagellant's resilience 3. And then his guys have +1 to wound, so it's like they're gonna be wounding me on like 2s or 3s. So anyway, there you have it. Secondary objective was Spoils of War, and deployment frontline was map 9. So here we go. For the first time ever with this army, I won the role to pick sides. So I picked the top side, and then Subspace got to pick who deployed first. He decided to drop all for first. He does have 3 scout units, and I have 3 scout units, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So this is the way he deployed. I figured if I picked the top, this forces him basically he has to deploy pretty much everything, either to the left or right of this impassable here. That's the problem with this map. So there you have it. It does create a little bit of issues for my cannons. But if you look at his list, really the only things I wanted to shoot with my cannons were his this new unit called let me look that up again. The Mist Leviathan. The Mist Leviathan, I actually do want to shoot the altar, although I'm still get confused about the rules. And we were about halfway through the game before I was commenting on it, and he said, because I said something about you can shoot a war platform in a unit, but you can only allocate 1 hit. And he says, yeah, so if you shoot with a cannon, the 1 hit from the cannon you just allocate to the altar. So anyway, um, yeah. And then the Gorgons also are things that I'd like to shoot with cannons. But anyway, his general is in this unit. These are the militants right here, I think. Let me go back and look at his list. So he's got Judicators, militants, and Dread Legionnaires. Okay, so actually, let me clear this up for you. So this purple unit, these are Judicators, And this unit in the middle is his Tempo Militant unit with the BSB in there. And then he's got the big spear block with the Dread Altar in it. He put his crossbow guys on the left, and he put his warlocks on the far left. And then his harpies are just hiding for chaff. Miss Leviathan doesn't care about water, so he goes in the water. There you have it. Secure target. Gotta pick up these two objectives. Yep. So he deployed that way, so I deployed this way. I decided to kind of corner because honestly, I didn't like I said, I'm scared of him. He's got +1 to wound in the first round of combat. So my objective is try to pick up this objective, and then at that way at least we tie objective, and then just sit back and blast him with pyro and my cannons, and hopefully weaken him so that if I have to fight him, I'll be able to win. Basically, that's my game plan. So yeah. Scout wise, we had a little. I didn't push the issue. Um, I had looked up in the rule book, and the person who picks a side gets to deploy scouts first. He said no, it's the person who finished deploying first gets to place their scouts first. So whatever. I didn't push the issue because it's just in the Abrasus league, and it's not that big of a deal in my mind. Whoever gets to play scouts first, so I let him. He put his scouts. He put a unit of scouts down, so I deployed this way. My main thing was I wanted my ranger units to be able to shoot his gorgons because they're the only things that are beasts. I think the Mist Leviathan is also a beast, so I wanted to be able to target the gorgons and the beasts. And then I wanted to also have rangers in the middle to be able to take out his harpies, Jeff. So that's why I deployed the way I did. Alright, then it's so he goes first. He pushes forwards hard, which of course is what Dread should do. Yeah. So the way he pushes out his Mist Leviathan, I cannot shoot it with this cannon. I can only shoot it with the far left cannon. And yeah, that's the way he does. Oh, that's right. There's 3 objectives. Yeah, so he's able to push forward enough that he can pick up 2 on this turn 2. So, with magic, he gets off Word of Iron on his spear unit, which I let him have. Mace, mostly, he's got this curse spell. The new hereditary for Dread Elves is kind of ridiculous. And so that's the main spell that I try to stop, and I do stop it. But I let him get Word of Iron off. Anyway, then in his shooting phase, he shoots up my ranger units, and one of them just flees off the board, right? Because I'm outside of the range of my general. There's a problem with putting my scouts over here. They're outside of the range of my general, and the scouts have discipline 7. So my turn. Yep. I push forwards on this side, just try to zone the warlocks, and I want to get my yeah, I just push forward this way so that if his warlocks charge my knights, I'm hoping my knights will hold so that my heavy infantry can then charge the warlocks in the flank. Or if he charges my heavy infantry, my knights can charge him in the flank. So basically, this forces him into a bad situation with his warlocks where he can't do a whole lot. And he can't go forward because he can't get charged by the flagellants. So he can't really do a whole lot. And of course, my heavy infantry are just going to try to pick up this objective. On this side, now that I've lost some rangers, because I had him too far forward, I should have just deployed my rangers in the back, and that way he wouldn't have been able to shoot at me at all with the shades, because the shades do have a pretty short range. So that was my problem. I deployed my rangers way too far forward on this side. But other than that, I am just, let's see. Yeah. I don't do a whole lot of other movement because, like I said, I want to just stay back and shoot him. I try to shoot up his, actually, that's magic. So I get altered sight off on the cannon. I try to do pyro spells. I think I was too greedy trying to get off enveloping embers on with 3 dice again. I basically need to always 4 dice that. And so that doesn't go off, which puts me in a bad situation where I can't really get spells off. So I think I got off one spell. And then with shooting, I'm able to take off some more shades, but he still has 2 shades, which I know he's just gonna chaff me with, which is bad. So then on his turn, he charges my rangers with the Miss Leviathan, and I flee because I figure well, I just want to keep that Miss Leviathan back, right? I don't really see a downside to fleeing. Or maybe I stood and shoot. Anyway, um, I think I stood and shoot, and then when his shades charged me, I also fled. Something like that. So, what does he do in his movement? He, of course, chaffs me with his shades. He pushes forward with his 2 blocks here. He's picked up these 2 objectives, so now he's winning the scenario, Spoils of War. And then, this I was a little curious about. He pulls his crossbows back. I think he was worried my knights were going to be able to charge them, so he just turns them around and retreats with his crossbows. um, yeah, and then he uses his other shades to chaff my flagellants here. So, magic phase, then I let him get Word of Iron off on his militant unit. Basically, the whole game, he's going to try to cast Word of Iron on one of these 2 blocks in the middle, and I'm just going to let him have it, because whichever one he casts it on, I'm just going to blast the other unit with Pyro. Like, I don't care. I have 2 juicy targets for Pyro spells. Sure, put Word of Iron on one unit, I'll blast his spears with Pyro. You put Word of Iron on the spears, I'll blast your Temple Militants with Pyro. Doesn't matter to me. But, I wasn't able to stop his cursed spell on my flagellants, so that was bad. Did not like that. Um, let's see. And then his shooting isn't doing that much else other than killing. He did kill some rangers and flagellants. Then it's on to my turn. So my flagellants charge his shades just so I can get rid of them. These rangers miraculously rally because they only have discipline 7, but they rally. These flagellants in the middle charge his shades. His shades flee, and I fail. So, but that's okay. I'm a little far forward, but the way he fled, I realized that now he is gonna have a hard time charging me with these 2 blocks. Because in my mind, that's what he wants to do. He wants now, what he expects me to do, I'm thinking, is he expects me to shoot and do magic at the shades and eliminate these shades. Then he can charge both of his big blocks in, and he'll be able to just blow up my flagellant unit and overrun and just kind of massacre the heart of my army. So, what I do, continue, let's see, rest of my movement, and this was probably a little bit of a mistake. I get a little greedy on the left. I push forward with my spears to pick up the objective, but I also push forward my knights in a way that now I open up an easy way for the warlocks to outflank me. So I probably should have just kept my knights a little bit back. I was trying to put pressure on his crossbowmen so that they couldn't get away, and I should have just kept my knights back. So that was my mistake. Because my flagellants are now a little far forward, I push forwards with my flagellants there. Oh, and I also hop my mage out, because looking at what he has, now that his shades are fleeing, I know they can't shoot me next turn. And in terms of magic, he doesn't really have any magic spells that are damaging. So I feel it's relatively safe to pop my mage out. So I hop my mage out so that if I need to, I can actually use this heavy infantry block in combat. I'm very reluctant to charge it into combat as long as the mage is in there. So I pop it out, and then I position myself. So if he does charge these flagellants, I now have a good flank on him, right? So that's the whole idea there. In magic phase, I also am able to get. I put altered sight on my cannon again, and stars align on the flagellant, so that if they do charge in, um, they're gonna have reroll the hit. And then I'm also able to blow up his spear unit with pyro, because he had Word of Iron on his militant, so now I'm putting Pyro on there. And I totally ignore the shades. I leave the shades there so that now he has chaffed himself. Now, if he wants to charge in, he's not going to be able to get many of his Temple Legates into the Flagellants. And if he doesn't get more than, he's only going to be able to get 1 or 2 models in the front rank to attack him, which means that he's not going to be able to blow them up. And now that I've decimated his spear unit with Pyro, I'm also fairly confident that if he did charge both units in, my flagellants will be able to hold, and then I'll be able to countercharge with my flagellants on his flank. So that's why I left his shades alive. There are often times that you want to kill the opponent's chaff, but there's sometimes, like in this situation, where you want to keep your opponent's chaff alive because now he's chaffed himself. Alright, cannon-wise, he's got Word of Iron, but I just fire a cannon at his militants because my cannon is higher AP, so I figure I can just start killing a couple of them. Of course, my flagellants kill his shades, and then I reform them at the end of the combat phase, or pivot them, not reform, pivot them in such a way that he's not going to really be able to get both Gorgons and his Judicators into combat with them. Yeah, so that's why I do that. And I move my Rangers over here just to be able to shoot him somewhat. That's about it. Alright, then on his turn, he charges his Judicators into my Flagellants, because I only have 18. And then he turns around his Divine Altar and retreats, because now that I've decimated his unit with Pyro, he doesn't feel confident that he can charge in. But at this point, he still has 2 objectives, and he figures if he just marches away, he'll get a small win, right? He'll win objective, and he'll pick up a few other points here and there, giving him a 13-7 or maybe a 14-6. So that's respectable. Good game plan. He moves his warlocks in such a way that he's now out of line of sight of my knights. So I can't leave my knights there because he can just charge me in the flank. I can't get his crossbowmen because they're too far away. And my spears are too far to charge the warlocks. There you have that. He does get off the Hand of Glory, which I believe that gave his Judicators a Aegis save. And then his Shades just keep shooting my Rangers, which miraculously he stayed. I rolled really low on Discipline. There you have it. His Judicators absolutely blow up my Flagellants. So, Judicators, really scary. Don't fight them. You gotta kill them with magic or something. Yeah, I didn't expect them all to die. Or I expected to do more wounds. Look, I only did like 4 or 5 wounds to his Judicators. So, I expected to kill a lot more, but it is what it is. Alright, then on my turn, I decide, now that he has turned his spear unit around, it's safe to push forwards. So, I charge my Flagellants into his shades so that I can get rid of his shade unit. I come forward with my spear unit here, and I come forward with my Flagellants. Now that he's killed my Flagellants, I'm worried that he's going to take his Judicators and whip around this Impassable and outflank me. So I'm now trying, I bring my parent unit, my heavy infantry, I turn them like this so that if his Judicators do come around, I'll be able to face them, which I don't really want my general necessarily to face them, but I do have parry and distracting with the engine, and I feel like with more ranks, I might actually be able to beat the Judicators, because they're only hitting me on 4s. So, there we have it. And then with the Knights, this was a little bit of a risk. I was worried putting my Knights this way that he would charge them with his Warlocks. But this way, I can still put pressure on his crossbowmen, and if he wants to charge my knights with his warlocks, he can. My spears are in the back, so that I'll be able to countercharge, and I just back the spears a little bit away. Let's see. What happened? Magic-wise, I'm able to kill a bunch of Militants because he doesn't have any buffs on them anymore. And it looks like that's basically all I'm able to get off. And then with shooting, I only kill one Judicator. My cannon does shoot at the Warlocks, and I kill 2 of them, which is something I probably should have been doing earlier in the game, but I didn't realize it till then. Then goes on to his turn. He hightails it out of there with his altar. He backs up his militants a little bit, but still facing me. And then he turns his Judicators around. I think he was just playing a little conservative. Um, I was expecting him to come around the impassable and outflank me with the Judicators, but I think he realized, you know what? My unit is getting a little diminished. I have a general in there. I have the objective. It's not worth it to him, right? Like I said, he's looking at probably a 14-6 win. And then he charges his Lemis Leviathan into my Rangers to pick up some more points. There you have it. Magic-wise, he's able to get off 2 buffs on his Temple Militants, which is bad because, like I said, these are the guys that have Blades of Darek, so now they are pretty well buffed. But again, I was just trying to stop the curse spell, his hereditary spell. So I let those through so I could stop the hereditary spell. He, of course, missed Leviathan, kills my Rangers. They break, they flee off the board, and he elects to pursue so that it's off the board and I can't shoot it with my cannons. Smart move from him. My turn. I decide to put my Flagellants into his militant unit. Even though he's buffed, I still get to attack him. So I know he's going to do a lot of wounds, but I still get to attack him. So I thought maybe I could put some pressure on him that way. You can see his Warlocks are now in my flank over here. So I turn my Knights around. That way, if he does charge them, basically it's just a tactical game on this left side. I spent the whole game with these 2 units just trying to zone and keep his Warlocks at bay, which I think it was fairly effective. I did keep him at bay, but I was devoting more points. But I also was protecting the objective, right? So, because I need to hold on to this objective if I'm target if I'm going to win objective. And then I just push forward with everything else. So there you have it. Let's see. Magic-wise, I continue to just use Pyro Magic and blast his Spear unit, so it's getting real diminished. And then I'm also, I put the Hereditary of Pyro on his Gorgons just to start whittling them down. And then I bring up my Spears in support here. What happened? Oh, that was just for cannon shooting. Alright. So in combat phase, my Flagellants do work, and they kill all of his militants except for his BSB. So I'm stuck here. I have a flank exposed to his Judicators if he wants to come in, but I did kill his entire militants unit. It's just his BSB left in combat with my Flagellants. So that was good. His turn, he decides to continue playing conservative. He just brings his Judicators a little bit forward. And then he chaffs me with his Harpies. Smart. Let's see. He brings his Warlocks over here so that they can get out of line of sight of me and start to pressure me. And then he turns his Spear unit around. So, and then his Smith Leviathan comes back on the board, and it's setting up ready to charge a lot of juicy targets. So, that's a little problematic. My turn. I charge my Flagellants into his Harpies. I I back up my spear unit here, and then I'm actually gonna move my mage back in such a way. I move my mage back so that the Mist Leviathan can't charge her very well. I and then I make sure that my other units are angled in such a way that the Mist Leviathan can't really charge anything except for my parent block. Um, which I was kicking myself because I didn't realize it till after I moved it, but I am not steadfast in woods. That's a tiny little rule that actually has some importance, because I'm gonna need to be steadfast against this monster. So I'm a little worried that he's gonna charge me and break me because I'm not gonna be steadfast. But there we have it. Magic wise, I actually put stars align on the flagellant, so because I'm hoping to kill his BSB, and I need stars align to do that. Um, Cannons try to hit his Mist Leviathan. I misfired and jammed with this one. That's what the red X means. The other cannon must have. Oh, I took a wound from something. Anyway, I didn't hit and wound his Leviathan. So, but my flagellants do successfully kill his BSB and his harpies, and I just push forwards. I was considering not overrunning with the flagellants because now I know I gave him a flank, but I felt that it was necessary because now I've put a lot of pressure on his spear unit. Like, it forces him now to charge me with his X-bows instead of just shooting with them, because I'm still worried that he might just move up and snipe my mage with his crossbows. So, but it kind of forces him in a situation where he needs to charge with them and not use them to shoot. So that's why I overran with the flagellants. What does he do? He does exactly that. He charges his crossbows into the flank of my flagellants. He charges his judicators into these flagellants, which are now diminished in such a way that he knows he's going to beat them. And then he'll be able to overrun into my spears and beat them, maybe get my mage. It's just going to be kind of bad. And he charges his Mist Leviathan into my parent unit. Then he hides his warlocks because I keep sniping them. And he moves his spear block further away so that I'm not going to be able to get that. So, what happens? Magic wise, he's able to get buff spell off. I don't remember what spell that is. That's why I don't like when people use like these spell tokens because I have no idea what 2 is. Like that's 2 from I don't know. I don't know what spell that is. I used someone made cards with names and things on them so that they're like the real spell cards, and that makes way more sense to me. All right. Funny things happen in this combat phase. This was a huge swing. So he kills my flagellants. And yeah, he killed the flagellants. He killed the flagellants. When the flagellants died, my spears panic and ran off the board. They ran right through the Leviathan. They ran through my unit, and they had to keep bouncing because there's no space. So my spear block ran off the board. Then I actually won combat against the Mist Leviathan. He failed his discipline check, and the Mist Leviathan broke. So the Mist Leviathan now runs this way through his general's unit, and his general unit failed their discipline test as well, and they ran. Well, because they ran, when you flee, you drop the objective marker. So now, suddenly, he's got 2 fleeing units. He dropped his objective, so now we're tied in objective. And that's about it. So on my last turn now, I move my Pyro Mage forward, because this is the last turn. So I move my Pyro Mage forwards. I do a bunch of magic, and I kill the last Legionnaires on the Dread Altar with Pyro, which means that he drops the objective because now he's not a scoring unit, which allows me then to win objective. And because it was his last turn, he doesn't have a chance to rally. So his Myth Leviathan is running, so I get half points for that. His Judicators and his General are fleeing, so I also get half points for them. And not a lot happens with these Spearmen. So it ended up being a 16-4 win. Whereas on turn 4, it looks like it was going to be probably a 14-6 loss, or 6-14 loss for me, because of some failed discipline checks from him and some lucky spell dice. I was able to pull out a 16-4 win. Now, that is kind of the downside of myself not having a BSB, that I very easily could have been in that same situation as him. I could have failed some discipline checks because I have discipline 10 in bubble 18, but no BSB, so I have to be really careful with it too. But I do feel like I make up for it with I do cast divination spells and get guiding light, which helps a lot. And then with orders, I'm able to put minimize. You see, I did put a minimized discipline on my block just in case. So I mean, minimized discipline 10 is pretty good in my mind. So there you have it. Any other general thoughts? He played really well. It's just some stuff happened on turn 6 that really turned the game around, and he deserved to win. He legitimately, in my mind, as I was playing him, I realized, like, especially over here on the left with the Warlocks, I had 2 units and I still couldn't pin his Warlocks down. Like, I had this problem. I used to play chess. I could get to the end of the game and I can't pin the opponent's king down. I don't know how to do that. So Subspace is legitimately a better player than me. It just so happened that dice turned a little bit in my favor at the end and gave me a 16-4 win. Great guy. I hope to play him again. If you ever get the chance, play him. And it was a good time playing the new Dread Elves. I've only played them once or twice before. So that was a little interesting. Again, cannons didn't really do much. Uh, sometimes it feels like they're not worth it, but there they are. They're there, and I don't know. Let me know any other thoughts. Pyro is worth it. I know someone asked on the channel a little bit ago if Pyro was worth it. Pyro is really good against Dread Elves. And that's partly why I take it, because against all the elf factions, when I was constructing my list, I thought to myself, I've got cannons against monsters, I've got flagellants, but the thing is, elves are faster than flagellants. If he doesn't want to fight me, he'll never have to. So I take Pyro so that I can blast elf factions. And Pyro can blast elf factions a lot better than Div or Alchemy or Cosmo. Because Cosmo has 2 spells. They have Ice and Fire, and they have the Unity and Divergence. And both of those are really good against elves as well. But I find that Pyro just gets a little bit better efficiency against elves than what those spells do. And I don't need the buff spells as much from Cosmo because I use flagellants. If I used a lot of heavy infantry, like a lot of strength 3 or strength 4 heavy infantry, then I would take Cosmo, like all the other Empire players are doing. But there you have it. Thank you for watching. Hope that you've enjoyed this journey with me. I have a couple more games. This was match 4. This was actually, I played them out of order because of some scheduling difficulties with Subspace. So I played this after my game with Beowulf. Beowulf is actually match 4 in the Abrasus League, and Subspace was my match 3, but it doesn't really matter. We in the elimination round, I think we have 6 or 7 matches, and as long as we get them all done, it doesn't really necessarily matter in what order we play them in. So, there we have it. Hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you learned something. Let me know what moves I could have made on the left to pin down his warlocks. Maybe I shouldn't have moved my knights as much. I think maybe there are situations I should have just left the knights where they were. But it is what it is. And thank you for watching these videos and helping me grow as a player. And stay fuzzy.